Pay me, pay me, pay me my silver now. Pay me or go to jail. Pay me my silver now.
BixWeir.com. Oh my God. So much going on in silver. JP Morgan has violated the DPA, the Deferred Prosecution Agreement. I'll get to that in just a second. But clearly something is different in silver. It does look very strong above the moving averages. Here we go. Now, it's not as strong as it's been back in, say, April time frame, where it really ran over the moving averages. But something is different this time. What could it be? What could be different in silver this time? JP Morgan Chase fined a total of $348 million for, quote, inaccurate monitoring and market misconduct. You might be saying, so what? They've racked up so many fines and agree to do this and agree to do that and get out of jail free cards left and right. Oh, you want some money? Here's some money. This is different. The reason it is different is that although the 3-year deferred prosecution agreement was expired, it expired in September, something else hangs on. Something else hangs on. If you read the deferred prosecution agreement, which me and my psychotic nature did, it talks about what happens when you violate it. Here is the deferred prosecution agreement signed on, I think it was September 25th of 2020. Let's take a look. September 25th of 2020. The dates are very important here. And here's what it says. First, let's read what they did wrong. JP Morgan Chase has been fined a total of $348.2 million by the U.S. Federal Reserve and the Office of Comptroller of Currency. Those are not the ones that had deferred prosecution. It was the Department of Justice. For failing to keep track of all of its trading activities, regulators said. The fine includes $92 million for a quote, an inadequate program to monitor firm and client transaction activities for market misconduct. That's not only JP Morgan, that's its other trading clients. Client trading activity. We have seen since JP Morgan got busted for rigging the silver market, the gold market, and other markets, but since 2020 when they signed this agreement, everything has gone out of taking, all the action in silver has left JP Morgan, and the mass of all of it went to JP Morgan, quote, customers, according to the COMEX data. Well, this is saying, hey, that customer trading client activities is not being reported properly. And you are currently under a deferred prosecution agreement, which expires not, it was a 3-year agreement, yes, it was. But it did not fully expire until 6 months after the 3 years. And now you're right now, I can tell you're sitting there with your fingers. September of 2023 is when it expired, right? September 25th of 2023. We got October, November, December, January, February, March. 6 months later is March 25th of 2024. Again, let's go back and read this. This is the reason I'm doing this. The reason I'm doing this is that this is all a planned deal. It's 100% planned. Listen to what it says. Right here. The fraud section and the office further agree that if the company and related entities, that's JP Morgan and its JP Morgan customers, and oh, by the way, the other traders those would be RICO charges, so they're trying to dance around that. If they fully comply with all their obligations under this agreement, the fraud section and the office will not continue the criminal prosecution against the company described in paragraph 1, and at the conclusion of the term, this agreement shall expire. So it has expired, right? That's what happened. It ended. Then it goes on. 6 months after the agreement's expiration, we are still in that window, my friends. The fraud section and the office shall seek dismissal with prejudice of the criminal information filed against the company described in paragraph 1 and agree not to file charges in the future against the company based on the conduct described in this agreement. So it was basically, you can do it again. We won't file charges against you. And the attached statement of facts. If, however, here we go. If, however, the fraud section and the office determined 6 months, in that 6-month period, that the company or related entities breached the agreement during the term, which we find out right here, they have massively breached the agreement and during the term. Billions of instances of trading activity were not reported, inaccurate governance. And it's been going on since 2019. So 2019 till today, that's the entire deferred prosecution agreement. It's all right here. And so what happens then? If during the term the company or related entities commit a felony under U.S. federal law, now, mind you, this is the Fed talking and the OCC talking. I think the JP Morgan, the DOJ is coming in very soon, within the next 10 days. In connection with this agreement, deliberately false, incomplete, or misleading information, provide deliberately false, incomplete, or misleading information, including in connection with their disclosure of information about individual culpability, the company or related entities or their subsidiaries and affiliates fail to cooperate under paragraphs 5 and 6 of this agreement. The company and the related entities failed to implement, here's the big one. If the company and related entities failed to implement a compliance program as set forth in 1920, the company or related entities otherwise failed to completely perform or fulfill each of the obligations under this agreement, regardless of whether this fraud section of the office become aware of such agreement, blah, 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 shall be subject to prosecution for further federal violation of which the fraud section and the office have knowledge, including, but not limited to, the charges in paragraph 1, the original charges from paragraph 1, which shall be pursued by the fraud section and blah, 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 blah. So this cracks the case right open again, right back open. The criminal case of JP Morgan rigging the silver market with friends, with its customers, has been will be reopened. It will be reopened soon. How do I know this? Go back to that section. Here's what the DOJ has to do in good faith. I know it's hard to find good faith in the legal system these days, but I do believe this is all a setup, so it doesn't matter. So it knows it's screwed up. Let's get back to page 17 and 18. If you do breach the agreement, but listen, the first part of this right here. It's that 6 month. Here it is. 6 months after the agreement's expiration, the fraud section and the office shall seek dismissal in this agreement and the attached facts. So here's what the DOJ has to do one way or the other. They can't just sweep this under the rug. They either have to dismiss JP Morgan from the case, saying, hey, you paid your money, you kept perfect records all these years, you're fine, go ahead and rig the silver market again. Or if they find that didn't happen, which we know it didn't, Ted Butler's been talking about it a long time, they've been hiding inventories, that's violating it too. But this is a massive violation, and it's not a coincidence that it is happening just literally 10 days before the DOJ has to either forgive JP Morgan or reopen the case altogether. Probably the RICO charges as well. That's massive. And it's right in line with what the good guys and bad guys are doing. This is happening, my friends. I hope you are ready. Again, JP Morgan Chase fined on Friday afternoon, they announced it, $348 million for misleading the market, for not keeping adequate records for them or their customers all the things that they were required to do under the Deferred Prosecution Agreement. Okay. I hope everybody knows that. Let's move on to the topic of yesterday. Yesterday morning, before I ran out, I was playing golf, by the way, ran out to play golf with some buddies. I posted this. This was just released by India. It shows right here 1.7 billion in silver imports. Massive. I've been screaming it forever. Watch India, but mainly watch China. But India, I was up at 8. By 8:30, I was logged in saying, okay, where are the numbers? Where are the numbers? Because I had to go play golf. I found them. I posted something. Watch the video from yesterday. Yes, it's actually about 76 is my estimate from the average price of silver. Taking the average price of 76 million ounces, the largest in, I don't even know how long. But this is from Metals Focus, which very timely. Nice job, guys, over there at Metals Focus, getting this out. Very timely. Right when these numbers were released, they put it out, and there it is. Look at that bar. That's tons of bullion imports. Now, I think their numbers are wrong. I mean, according to their number, it looks like, at least the bar graph looks like, 2,250 tons, which would be only, that would be, come out to 83 or $23.85 an ounce. That's way off. I mean, if we're talking about average, Indians usually buy one on the dips, but we're talking about average price of silver for February should be, let's see, right here. The high, other than a little tiny spike, the high was $23.60. And they're using literally $23.85. I mean, my number came out, if you look at where February is, it should be, I mean, all these trades are right in here. It should be about right here. I used $22.60 to come up with 76 million ounces. This shit matters. Because if we let guys like Metals Focus and the Silver Institute fudge numbers just a little bit, they all care. It all gets piled on. So I don't know if they were fudging, they made a mistake, or they might even be using the new silver price in India. There's a new silver exchange in India that people are actually even talking about. I've been screaming it for a while, but hey. But if you can see, look at the past. This was last year in blue. Massive. It was massive for January, which was over 20 million ounces. So that's about 96, 97 million ounces in the first 2 months for India. Now, what's going on? Let's take a look at what's going on. Right here, we have an article from the Economic Times. Indian banks halt silver imports as duty differential spurs private trade. Indian banks usually sell gold and silver. They stopped it. They stopped selling silver. Why? Because they're banks. They're criminal banks. JP Morgan doesn't want to sell silver anymore in India. So India, other people have taken over. Most of this is going through the exchange called the IIBX, which is the new physical silver exchange in India. Now, most likely, the IIBX has silver at a much higher rate, maybe even $1 more than the criminal COMEX, so that must be what Metals Focus is using, and that would make sense. If you're importing silver into India, you probably use the Indian price for silver, which is determined on the IIBX. But here's more information. Indian banks have stopped silver imports after private traders bought large volumes of the precious metal from the United Arab Emirates to benefit from a lower duty. A total of 5 dealers in the industry said. You always know that if they say, a total of 5 experts said, that those numbers are so shaky, they don't even want to, all they got to do is, it's 5 industry experts told us, I swear. India, the world's largest silver consumer, imposes a 15% import duty on the metal. But the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement signed between India and the UAE in 2022 allows private traders to import silver through India International Bullion, IIBX, at a 9% plus a 3% tax, so they're saving about 3%. IBX, India's first international bullion exchange, was set up in 2022. I was screaming about that. And by mid-December, the government had issued clearances that allowed dealers to trade in silver. Volumes have steadily grown, and traders have imported 827 metric tons of silver via the IIBX so far this year. So I'm saying that it's, let's take a look. So they're saying 887 and going through the IBX. And this is, let's see, 750, that's 3,000 tons. So maybe one-fourth of the volume is going through the IIBX. The rest is just being directly shipped right to the end user, the people who imported it. Most likely for the solar push. It's obvious. There's other things that are going on about solar. Other people are starting to find out too, which is really cool. And you can see here, not even half of it came from the UAE, but that's probably where the UAE is. I don't even know if the UAE has any silver mines. I don't think they do. So where's that coming from? Probably London or the COMEX or somewhere. But the UAE, do they have? I don't think they have any silver mines. Doesn't seem like the kind of area that is a big silver producer. So, yeah, so how did it end up in the UAE? I don't know, probably, trying to save 3% by funneling it through the UAE. I don't know. Lots come from the UK. That's the LBMA. And then China is even exporting silver too, which is rare. I didn't think China exported that much silver unless it came in an end product. Okay, so we know about that. One of the best things is that the rest of the silver industry is starting to understand what I've been screaming about for about a year and a half now. Solar is the key. A lot of this IIBX deliveries, most of this is getting delivered. A lot of it's going right into their solar industry, which we have talked about before. But it is very good to see other people within the silver discussion space. Alistair McLeod, who's been a long-time silver analyst and good stuff on occasion. Now, he doesn't really like to delve into the conspiracy side, which I think is the most important side. But that's the cool thing about, they kicked me out of GATA, the Gold Antitrust Action Committee. They didn't really kick me out. I just got a bunch of shit for saying, oh my God, there's so much gold out there. When I found out about Yamashita's gold, the gold in the Grand Canyon, the gold at Chocolate Mountain, there's gold all over the place. There's so much gold, it's ridiculous. They didn't like that, so they kicked me out of GATA. They didn't kick me out of GATA. There is no membership in GATA. There's a board of directors. They've never let me go on the board of directors. Not that I wanted to, but I love GATA. They've done a great thing for gold and silver, but they never went deep enough, and that's why I left. Started my own little channel, roadtoruta.com, and that's where we are today. And now all of a sudden everybody's saying, oh, yeah, the silver is rigged on the COMEX with computer programs. They haven't gotten to that point where they say, oh, they were written by Alan Greenspan in the early 1970s and have continued to rig the markets, all markets today. They'll get there. I mean, everything takes time. We finally got people saying that silver is illegally rigged. And that was a big thing that's a life accomplishment in my book. I mean, how long? I've been fighting this fight for almost 25 years now. And they're finally, getting around and doing something about it. The rest of the world knows, though. China, Russia, India. Everybody knows. The whole world, except, Jeffrey Christian doesn't know. And apparently, Metals Focus doesn't believe in that silver is manipulated. Yeah, I was talking to the CEO, and he's like, well, we don't believe that the price is manipulated. I'm like, holy shit. If you don't start with the price is manipulated, everything else falls apart. Everything. It's crazy. But anyway, Alistair McLeod, great post here. This is at Gold Money, where he talks about the Indian solar demand. I talked about this one about a week ago. The key to this activity. Okay, let me read it to you. A powerful, let's see. The feature of these markets is extraordinary extent to which bullion is leaching out of the COMEX. So far this year, 95 tons of gold have moved, but the real surprise is silver, which by this morning had 1,201 tons stood for delivery. How much is that? 1,221 tons. 1,201 tons times, what is it? 32,150, I think. Metric tons. 38 million ounces. That's not a lot for 2 months, 2.5 months. That's not a lot at all. Well, historically, maybe recently. I mean, I remember 50, 60, I think the highest 70, 75 million ounce deliveries on the COMEX. You got to go back a few years, but yeah, the 38, yeah, it's better than it's been in the last few years. But with that exchange for physical function to move all your COMEX contracts over to the LBMA for delivery, it's really a moot point. Anyway, but the real surprise in the silver, which by this morning had 1,200 tons stood for delivery. Normally, these deliveries are merely shuffling of ownership in COMEX registered vaults. However, the evidence suggests that silver is actually being transferred with a view to being physically delivered outside the vaulting system. Ooh. The key to this activity is India. The Indian government introduced a solar production linked incentive scheme. Reliance Industries, among others, are investing heavily in photovoltaic production and is commissioning the first 5 gigawatt phase of a 20 gigawatt manufacturing facility scheduled for opening this month. Great. That's all we need is more manufacturing capabilities for silver. There's always already a massive glut. I guarantee you they're building TopCon, which is high intensity silver. Nope. I love it that people are finally starting to talk about this stuff. Anyway, I am informed by industry sources that being unable to source sufficient silver from refiners, Reliance Industries has been buying what it can in silver markets, including the COMEX. It's almost certainty Reliance, which is taking the bulk of 1,200 tons, and the acceleration of deliveries this month reflect the commissioning of Phase 1 in Jamnagar. It seems extraordinary. I mean, this is just kind of silly. It seems extraordinary that with the massive increase in global ESG-related demand that the silver price has not risen significantly. It isn't extraordinary. We live in a rigged market. We've known this, Alistair. We've known this for decades. But especially the silver usage going through the roof, 350 million ounces in 2023. 350 million just for solar. And it's going to double this year again. I'm sorry, everybody who says no, but China and India have plans. And most of this is happening in China and India. And I mean, the American investors they're being held clueless by the likes of the Silver Institute, Metals Focus, Jeffrey Christian. You got to listen to the right people. My God, I've been screaming this for so long. Well, I'll keep going. Why not? It seems extraordinary with this massive increase in global ESG-related demand for silver that the price has not significantly risen. But as I explained in my post to my Substack subscribers this week, China has deliberately suppressed the price of silver while importing significant quantities to bolster photovoltaic production. I would not necessarily say it was China. I mean, clearly, unless they're posing as HSBC customers, or as China owns. I think China owns the COMEX. Somebody told me that. I haven't seen the documentation on that, but it wouldn't surprise me. And if they are doing that, I don't think it would be solely China, because we see HSBC just delivering every other day, and they are not friends with China. They destroyed China in the Opium Wars. But obviously China has an absolute stake in the game. They're the largest producer of solar silver, 350 million ounces globally last year. Although the Silver Institute and Metals Focus are going to tell you half that amount, which is really sad. But I'm working on that. I'm still working on it. All right. Now that India is rapidly developing its output under government schemes, China is likely to lose its grip on price. I would say to Alistair, dig into what I just read about, the IIBX program, which started in 2022, and that's a actual physical silver delivery mechanism in China. I mean, in India. Started in 2022, and it's massive, and it's just this stuff isn't going to stop either. People saying in America, oh, the EV craze is dying out because they see all these articles. They don't dive in and say, in fact, Tesla's not even the number one electric vehicle producer anymore. It's BYD out of China. The U.S. is literally falling behind in everything, and the consumption of silver is all about China, all about India, all about the rest of the world. And no, electric cars aren't dead. It's the dumbest thing. I keep hearing it over and over. I work in the electric car industry, blah, blah, blah. You don't work in China, my friend. The electric vehicles were up 35% again. It's not that 60% or 70% is going down, absolutely. But the reality of what's going on with the perception of what an electric car can do and cannot do, it's like a pendulum. It swings one way or the other, and then currently it's swinging in the way of, oh, electric cars suck because I couldn't drive more than 100 miles in mine because it was too cold and blah, 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 blah. Not many people who own electric cars are complaining about them. Teslas, at least. The new ones are breaking down because they, Ford and GM and all these companies that are trying to make electric cars just don't have the same abilities that Elon Musk has, and they're losing billions on it. So of course they're going to shut that down, and then they're going to poo-poo it and say it's not our fault. It's that damn electric car thing. So you'll read in the comments below that no, electric cars are dying, Bix. You just don't understand. At 35% growth last year, when everybody says they were dying the year before, now they're saying they're dying again. And, BYD, YBD, whatever, that electric car company in China. And there's more. Oh, by the way, did you know Warren Buffett owns 10% of that company in China that's making electric cars like they're going out of style? And in China, it doesn't matter. Money doesn't matter in China. They just create it out of thin air and don't even pretend, like the United States does, don't even pretend that they're keeping things in order. They said, no, we're going to build as much solar panels as possible to save the world. We're going to import massive amounts of silver. India is doing the same thing. Every country on the planet. The West is trying to play it down, but they're failing miserably. So that's what I got for you. So Alistair, I'd say dive a little deeper into the rigging aspects of gold and silver. It's all under the computer programs of Alan Greenspan. Anybody in gold that does not dive into the conspiracy side of gold gets everything wrong. Everything wrong. Read Peggy and Sterling Seagrave's book, Gold Warriors. Do your homework. Get the disc of thousands of documents proving this. There's Supreme Court case. It's like my argument when I was fighting Steve St. Angelo about the gold in the Grand Canyon. It's like people just stop at the most minimal research. Dive deeper. I beg of you, dive deeper. You're going to find the truth. How about Supreme Court hearings about massive amounts of Yamashita's gold? Hello? These people, what, you think they're... It's same with the Supreme Court hearing, Utah versus the United States of America, about water rights along the Colorado riverbanks where all the gold is. The U.S. wanted to lock it up, and they did. And it went to the Supreme Court, and all the documents are there saying there's massive amounts of gold in the banks of the Colorado River. Billions and billions and billions and billions of ounces. And we knew it in the early 1900s when the U.S. Treasury only had, 100 million, 200 million ounces of gold, and all of a sudden we find billions. Everything stems from that. And then there's all kinds of gold, true gold facts Yamashita's is probably the biggest known one. I think the biggest, the mother of all, is still unproven within the Grand Canyon, and that's the mother lode. And that mother lode is probably, nobody knows, 1 million tons. Yep, I said it, 1 million tons of gold. So careful what you invest in. Silver by far number one asset to invest in. Number two, I'd go down the crypto route. I'd say Theta is the number two investment to have. Silver's for the now, Theta's for the future. If you understand anything about AI, you understand that we don't have the computing power for it to work, and we don't have the storage capabilities. Theta has invented a technology that can be downloaded on every Android cell phone on the planet. It's going through the beta test right now, and these guys know what the hell they're doing, and nobody knows about it. That's my number two investment in Theta. And then you want some insurance, get some Veritasium, because Reggie has the patent on almost everything in cryptos. So that's what I got for you. I know, crazy days. Buy your physical silver now. I mean, this will probably take a month or two for people to digest, and the Department of Justice has until the 25th to either approve or give them a letter, JP Morgan a letter, saying you violated the DPA. And I think they did on many different fronts. Ted Butler nailed them for violating the DPA on providing dishonest information to the markets when they're double counting inventories. So keep an eye on, yes, I do think silver is going into the thousands of dollars per ounce, maybe even 1-to-1 with gold. When all the shit, now you won't see it on comics. Comics will be long gone. And I do think that the criminals within the regulatory agencies are going to be taken out too. Unless they come clean and say, hey, we had to rig it because, it was better for America that we rig markets rather than not. I cannot see any positive from that other than kicking the can down the road. And that's never a good thing. So, yeah, who pays for the crimes of our fathers? Our kids. So how about let's man up and woman up and end the rigging of all our financial markets and start fresh. That's what you'll find at roadtoruda.com. Oh, not only, Alistair, check out front page right here. I walk people slowly through the solar silver story because it is the biggest thing about silver by far. Because and none of this silver is coming back for 30 years, by the way. This silver's gone for at least 30 years until they start. If the price goes up to $2,000 or $3,000, they might start dismantling all these solar panels we put in. Most likely that will happen. But more likely with today's world, we create a 30-year derivative. I'm selling you the rights to melt down my solar panels, my massive field of solar panels, and we'll discount it back to today, and then you have the rights at the back end when the panels will pull out and we're recycling them for the new technology, whatever that may be. That's what I got for you. Lots going on. This is the biggest news, I think, and it'll take a couple months for it to fully be digested. But I said, in order to destroy the system, you have to take out the biggest derivative hold in the world, and this will do that. And we'll know in 15 days whether they're going to do it or whether they're not. If they're not, they'll just dismiss the entire J.P. Morgan. This is the Department of Justice will dismiss the entire J.P. Morgan prosecution, deferred prosecution ruling. They have to rule on a dismissal. If they don't, then they have to rule that they violated the DPA, and clearly they violated it. It's right here. But who knows in today's day and age. This is Bix Weir, roadtoruda.com. Hey, you want more information, private road stuff? Jenny had been talking about this for a while. She's got a massive month coming, or quarter coming for silver. Two of them, actually. Go check out our latest discussion at roadtoruda.com. And to subscribe, click on subscribe today. We're currently giving away the, let's just call it insurance against all your crypto potential gains. one Veritasium token for every private road subscription and renewal. It's on a paper wallet, gets mailed to your front door. If you don't know anything about cryptos, just take it and stick it in your safe with all your stacked silver, and you can say, "Hey, I own a crypto, something called Veritasium. Cliff High has it going higher than Bitcoin." So that's a pretty big deal, if you ask me. This is Bix. I'll talk to you later.